once again, we are very happy to welcome you to this year's Gender Plus Springboard session for IDAHOBIT, together with Pride, walking the road to inclusive innovation and youth entrepreneurship. So today I will be your moderator. My name is Jezreel Punzalan, working with UNDP as the Youth Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator. And of course, joining me here today is Miss Aggie Chu. Aggie, do you want to do some wave through the video? There you go. And also we have Cynthia and the rest of the Springboard team with us today. So good afternoon, everyone. And we hope that you will really learn a lot in this very interactive session for today. So in line with this year's International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, or IDAHOBIT celebratory theme called Together Always, United in Diversity, today's session will amplify voices and stories of youth entrepreneurs as they journey through an inclusive and enabling space in innovation and entrepreneurship. So with that, let me see, with your Zoom reacts, can you show me in the reacts function if you are excited for today's session? So I'm very excited for today's session. So I'm definitely pulling this party emoji here. We already have 5 people doing it. So that's a relatively good number of excited friends. Now it's 8. All right, there you go. James is also excited. Joe is excited. Thanks so much, everybody. Nisha is definitely excited for this. Ooh, we have a new emoji now. All right. So I see that the excitement is already above the roof for today. So I think what better way to start this by introducing the panelists for today. So I'll go ahead and introduce them. You'll slowly see them here in the screen as Aggie will spotlight them one by one. All right. So for our first panelist, let's call on Priyal Agrawal, who is also the founder of StandWeSpeak in India. So Priyal, would you like to say a few hi hellos to our friends today? Over to you.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this session. I'm really honored to be here. I'm Priyal Agrawal. I'm the founder of StandWeSpeak, and we are building a gender-inclusive, non-judgmental sexual and reproductive health platform for you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Priyal. We're so excited to hear more about your experience, your insights for today's session. And of course, today, what makes this so exciting is we have another panelist to join us today. So I'm so excited to introduce you to Saurav Verma, the program manager of Nazariya. Hi, Saurav. Good afternoon.
Hi, hello everyone. Hi, my name is Saurav and my pronouns are they, them. I'm a queer non-binary person and I'm working at an organization called Nazariya, which is a queer feminist resource group. And the organization is specifically, run and led by queer and trans people only. So that's the most exciting part about the organization. And we work around gender, sexuality. My work focuses around, working on queer trans issues and rights, developing resources, developing training modules, and a lot of other stuffs like management. And yeah, so that was about me. Excited to be here and thank you for the invitation. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Saurav. And yes, later on, my dear friends, once we get through our discussion, you will definitely hear more about the social enterprises that they belong in, because most of their experience will definitely come or give roots from the different social enterprises that they work with, as well as the people they work for. All right. So I think without further ado, let's start to go and deep dive into this discussion. So I think I'll go firstly, I'll try to ask you a very simple question, Priyal and Saurav, and you can try to also, complement one another. How do you plan on celebrating IDAHOBIT 2023? So anyone can start. Maybe we could go with Saurav.
Yeah, okay. So, as I said that, my organization works for queer and trans people's rights and issues. So every day we fight this battle to, fight the battle against discrimination, invisibilization, and the injustice that queer trans people have to face. But specifically speaking about this day, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. So we are doing a very important launch event. So usually organizations like us and lots of other feminist organizations, they do a lot of crisis intervention where, in our organization, we provide shelter, we provide legal aid, mental health support, and we also provide legal aid, mental health, shelter, and livelihood support as well to the queer trans people. So a lot of times what happens is the people who are supporting and who are carrying on this initiative, they also belong to, the queer trans community. And it becomes very much emotionally and mentally draining for themselves as well. And to secure themselves also, we have tried to develop a guidebook which will help all the case workers, which will help all the people who are working in crisis intervention. So we are launching a guidebook basically for all those feminist organizations and queer trans organizations. So yeah, that will be helpful for them. It will give tips and pointers to them that how they can take care of themselves and also take care of the community that they're working with. Yeah.
Well, Saurav, I love how your celebration of IDAHOBIT for this year is still very much rooted to the advocacy on, fighting against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia in the lens of taking care of the mental health of the volunteers and the workers that join you in this cause. Thanks so much, Saurav. How about you, Priyal? What's the plan for this year's IDAHOBIT?
So when we talk about sexual and reproductive health, it's a huge taboo, and not a lot of people talk about it. And when we combine inclusivity to it, like there's literally no solution. Even though 377 got decriminalized like quite a few years back, we still don't have any proper solution when it comes to seeking sexual health advice or counseling services that are inclusive. So now what we are doing is, since we also provide teleconsultation sessions with gynecologists, counselors, and lawyers, we are now training them as to how to be inclusive, how to provide queer affirmative therapy. So now we have trainers who belong to the community itself, and they themselves share their experience and how to take up clients who belong to the community. So that is something that we have just launched to celebrate this day.
Thanks so much, Priyal. And I think I'm always in awe every time you talk about the work that you do. I mean, just for the context of everybody, of course, before we had today's sessions, we also jumped into a dry run and we had an initial talk with Priyal and Saurav, and it really just inspires me, to work better. But as you can see, both of you already are doing so much when it comes to fighting this cause for IDAHOBIT. But we're also curious or interested to know, can you tell us a little bit more of your journey so far? Like, how did you get to where you are today? How did you end up having all of these projects and activities fighting against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia? So I think we could go with Priya this time. Can you tell us a bit more of your journey?
Sure. So the reason why I started StandWeSpeak was because one incident where my friend who was 19, she was denied abortion services because of her marital status. So she consumed a dozen iPads, and it left her physical and mental health in a severe state, and she couldn't really go out, talk to people about it. So that was the reason why I decided that sex ed was really important, and not just sex ed, we needed a holistic solution where they could have access to contraception, period products, sexual wellness products, and also experts who could guide them in a non-judgmental way. And I realized that this also need to be inclusive, because we have issues that we can't really talk about, which is so ingrained to our sexuality, our gender, how we feel. So that was the stepping stone, how we thought about this idea and how we started. So since then, we have made sure that right from the beginning, every content that we produce, even we have built a chatbot which is also inclusive. So we make sure that not just the information, but all our services are inclusive as well. So that is how we started, and now we are building up on it. We are also building now digital content, videos, to further this cause.
Thanks so much, Priyal. And I think what I wanted to point out from your journey so far is there's that one incident or there's that one scenario in your life that really sparks that flame, to want to do something despite of the stigma, despite of the taboo. You want to be brave enough, and you want to help others be brave enough to talk about these things. And admittedly, we still have so much more barriers in the world today, especially when it comes to the cultural setting that we're in. But slowly, we have social enterprises like yours that slowly move the needle and make sure that these conversations are actually talked about, even to young people at a very young age. How about you, Saurav? Can you give us a sneak peek of the journey?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my journey had been quite interesting and a bit of a roller coaster as well. So I come from a very small city in India, and I'm also a first generation learner in my family. So the journey was definitely a bit more, a bit difficult for me because, I was already fighting the battle with my society, with my family, and the systemic barrier that I have because of, being a queer trans person, like constantly erasing and kind of masking my identity. So obviously that was definitely there. But I also feel that, uh, uh, I got some very right people and, safe spaces in my life, which had helped me to, sail through all those personal battles that I've been fighting all alone. And that kind of helped me to, carry on more initiatives, grow myself and work more on myself. So I have co-founded two initiatives as well, so one of them worked on the well-being of orphan and abandoned children, and another initiative is still working in rural India in Madhya Pradesh, which works on maternal and infant health. And currently, because the gender and sexuality is something which is very deeply associated with my personal identity, with my personal struggle. So I feel very because it is my cause as well. It is my issue as well. So that is why I am currently working into gender and sexuality. So it started from development communication, then it shifted to sexual and reproductive health, and now it has shifted to gender and sexuality. So that is something about my journey. But having said that, I also want to reiterate one fact that, the society has created a timeline, a heteronormative timeline, where we have very set milestones, where we have very set script that, you have to follow these milestones, you have to achieve these milestones, then only you'll be called a successful person. But a queer trans person in their life has to face so many battles, like they have to put on extra labor in their life to fight their personal battle. And also most of them have to leave jobs, have to leave colleges, education, go through mental health issues and lots of other struggles that they've been facing. So we cannot, see the growth and development of a queer trans person from the same lens that we are seeing, other people who are coming from the privileged location. So even the person who is choosing to fight the battle are courageous, and who are not fighting it, they are also courageous. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Saurav. What a beautiful piece coming from you. And I really wanted to reiterate, a while ago you were talking about how there's all that personal barrier that you had to go through, and you also realized that almost everyone from the LGBTI community possibly go through these barriers as well. But you mentioned one very important point, which is having a safe space. And you said, like, that safe space is what enabled you to think beyond the box, to think of how else you could serve your fellow young people. And I think that's very important, and I think that's also one thing that we really want to build or to nurture here in Youth Collab, even in the Springboard program, that we want to build a safe space, especially for young people, to make sure that you have an enabling environment for you to grow, for you to experiment. And we hope that sessions such as this one, our celebration for IDAHOBIT, would really solidify that safe space to make sure that you can go and experiment on big things that you want to try. And also on the timeline, I totally agree with that. Although most people would think that the ladder to success looks like a ladder, for me it looks more of like a three-dimensional space. It doesn't need to be up up up. Sometimes you need to go left and right, up and down, and that will all contribute to the success you're at. Priyal, how about you? When we're talking about, just because we're in the conversation of barriers, would you be comfortable to share with us like any barrier that you think you have experienced in the process? May it be as a person or as someone who is leading a social enterprise yourself?
So one of the barriers that I would like to share, like the story, would be when we pitch this idea, like whenever I pitch this idea to investors or people who would like to invest in our company, it's usually older men in India when it comes to like startups. So they always comment that we don't need to educate young people about gender and sexuality and about inclusivity, and the solution that you're building is not needed. And young people don't need to be educated around genders and sexuality. I think that is one of the biggest barriers that we faced in the initial days, because pitching this idea, raising funds for a company like ours, it gets really difficult in a country like India. But the good part was that we were receiving support from our users and our beneficiary, which really liked the idea. So the solution, if it's meant for users and they're liking it, that gave us hope and that gave us validation that this is the solution that we need. So that is when we started looking at it in a different way and identifying people who would be willing to invest rather than just having investors who invest in any other traditional companies, because ours is a topic that is quite sensitive and it's also a taboo, so we need to be more mindful. So that was the barrier that we faced initially, but we learned how to overcome it.
Thanks so much, Priyal. And I think yes, actually, when mentioning about support or investments, I think up until today, as sad as it may seem, we are still the world is still very much careful when it comes to talking about issues from IDAHOBIT or issues being experienced by the LGBTI community. But you mentioned that sometimes it really just takes that one push of support, and then you'll find investors that will help you push your cause further. And now, while we're talking about safe spaces, we're talking about support. Can I ask you both just a follow-up question? It's basically how important is an inclusive and enabling environment for LGBTI entrepreneurs? So anybody feel free to start.
So I think it is very essential. As you know, earlier I spoke about safe spaces that has personally helped me to grow and kind of provided me a nurturing space. And when we talk about queer trans people, they have to take extra labor and effort to kind of fight their battle every day. And if an organization is not a safe space, not providing them with safe space to them, they have to fight the same battle at the workplace again. So the extra labor they're doing in their regular day lives as well, and now they're doing at the workplace as well. And it is not only taking a toll on their mental and emotional health, but like taking a toll on their energy, on their efforts. And if they don't see that they are valued or taken seriously, they will not open up to their colleagues or to the organization or to the people. So I feel that it is very much important to have a safe space, have spaces which can help queer trans people to kind of open up and express themselves, share up their true self, because it is also linked to self-esteem and confidence. If we are given love and empathy, we are more prone to kind of grow in our full potential and show our full potential. So yeah, I definitely think it is important. I would love to hear from Priyal what she wants to add on. Yeah.
So I very much agree with what you said, because I feel like when the space is inclusive, you feel more like yourself. And you talked about confidence. So when you feel more like yourself, when you feel that you're accepted, you would share more ideas, you would discuss more things. But if you feel that as a person you're not accepted, then you would just hold yourself back. And you would think that even the ideas that you have, nobody would accept that, and they would just, disregard it. So I really think that having an inclusive and safe space really helps a person not just grow individually, but also helps them be more confident and be more vocal and be, more interactive and share more ideas with the organization.
Thanks so much to both of you. But I think I can do nothing more but echo on your sentiments on this, because an enabling space, as you both mentioned, it helps a person express themselves fully in all their diversities, yes, and in all their quirkiness and their fun ideas. It's a safe space that pushes forward that level of self-expression, that they're confident and they're empowered to do things they want to do. And also this I took notes. Sorry, I took notes of two phrases. Number one is full potential, and number two is be more like yourself. And I think spaces like these really amplify that. And while we're talking about having an enabling environment, having an inclusive space, I think we all agree that when it comes to inclusion for the LGBTI plus community, that does not only involve all of us inside the community. It also involves allies. It involves people in power that will eventually support us in our cause. So with that, I wanted to ask you, what can members of the LGBTI community and allies do to further support and strengthen the cause of IDAHOBIT in the entrepreneurial space, at least? Saurav?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about allyship, I don't think it's it's a milestone or it has a checklist that you have to adhere to. It's a constant effort that you have to put every day. And it is also about reflection of your own power, own privileges that you have, and making use of those privileges power to support other people as well. So that is about allyship. What I believe is, in an entrepreneurial space, what I feel is, so like, for example, we cannot have the same standards or same performance measures or same deadlines which we have set for, people. We cannot set the same standards for queer trans people. As I mentioned, there are, extra labor that they're already doing in their life. And maybe they might not have the privilege to have the same education or same specialization, or maybe not having, these command over the language that the organization is using. So, having that thing that we cannot set the same standards, first and foremost thing is that. Second thing I feel is, it could be like a very simple effort. Like, let's say in our conversation, we tend to crack some jokes which are, homophobic or transphobic. So it could be just stopping that joke or not participating in that joke, right? It could be as simple as when we are having discussion, writing our pronouns, because it is creating safer space for the other person as well, queer trans person as well, that, okay, this person is writing the pronoun, which means that this might be a safe space and I can open it up. So that is something. And, and if we speak about pronouns, not assuming someone's pronoun or not assuming someone's gender identity, that is something which I feel. And at Nazariya, our policies are designed in a way keeping in mind queer trans people. For example, we have leaves for gender affirmation surgery. We have bereavement leaves. For example, if someone has some caregiving responsibilities, then they can take leaves. We involve queer trans people into decision making, making it more participatory so that we can dismantle the power structures. So that is something we also try to do in our organization, to create more affirming space for everyone. And I feel that in other entrepreneurial spaces also, people can do that. And also focusing on resting. Resting is very much important. I am very happy that, I'm in an organization where people keep on checking on me that, how are you doing? You have to rest enough. So I think that is very important, because we are surviving as well, and then we are working as well. So resting is also important, which organizations should focus on.
Thanks so much, Saurav. Priya, over to you first.
I think Saurav covered it beautifully, like the whole idea. But one thing that I would like to add to it would be, like, as an ally, you also need to keep an open mind. Like, I feel that, you're always learning. There's always something that you don't know and you need to learn. So that is one thing that is really important, even within the community and even when supporting entrepreneurship, because when you're educating yourself and when you have an open mind, you also educate others by not, like sort of mentioned, we sometimes joke about something. So, educating other people why that is wrong and how that should be corrected is also something that, can be done to support it. So yeah, just that point.
Thanks so much, Priyal and Saurav. Yeah, I think just to summarize the some of the suggestions that you mentioned. I think number one is small acts create big impacts. Some people might think, oh, come on, it's just pronoun. Why do we have to put it there? Why do we have to ask them to put it there? But for us, it's nothing. But there are some people who are going through some very specific challenges, especially on their identity, and that means a lot for them. And it doesn't pay to be kind. It's free to be kind, and we can start from there. Another one is an organization that supports you even in rest. I got this from Saurav. I think I remember my previous supervisor also told me the rest is as important as the work. As much as we have the fire to do all the things that we want and save everyone, or not save, but do the work. We also have to remember that the rest is as important, and we need to be in order to share whatever we have to other people. And also from Priyal, very important point, as an ally, allies need to keep an open mind to understand that there are new concepts every day that we have to be familiar with in order for us to prove to build a safer space. After open mind, I think I'd like to add number two, open heart. We need to have that open heart to make sure that despite our biases, we need to look past our biases and have that open heart to understand things better, and an open will to know that the future is uncertain and there's so much for us to discover about gender and its diversities and all of its um, different levels and personalities. And we have to have that open will to be able to grasp all of this information that we have. So yes, thanks so much for all of these. I think not only me, but everybody else in the room, we learned so much from you. But I'm sure that our participants today also have a lot of questions for you. So we actually have the time to cater to a few questions. So for our participants, you can actually raise your hand to ask a question directly to our panelists. You could also type them down here in the chat box. Aggie will be here to help me track your questions. If you're a bit shy on sending those questions to the plenary, you can simply send me a personal message here on Zoom, and I will read your questions in confidence. I won't say your name or whoever this question came from, all right? So yes, the floor is now open for questions. Please feel free to raise your hand. And just while we're waiting for our new friends to raise their hands and ask questions, I think I'm also able to give this floor to Priyal and Saurav. Maybe you want to tell a little bit more about your social enterprise, or plug your social enterprise, where they could follow you on any social media network, just so people could interact with you a little bit more. Thank you. I think we can start with Priyal.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I will share the link to our website and our social media platforms over the chat.
Okay, we actually have the first question. This one's from Aggie, and then after that, we're going to call on Syed Omer. So the first question is, what are the challenges you're facing when advocating for gender inclusiveness through your work? Anyone could answer.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. What are the challenges you're facing when advocating for gender inclusiveness through your work?
Should I go first? So at StandWeSpeak, we have recently started partnering with educational institutes because they have built a chatbot which answers all the questions anonymously. And we also conduct workshops to educate young people. So one of the major challenges, because we have decision makers who are principals and board of directors, they don't understand this concept. And they often say that, oh, in our school, we don't have anyone who belongs to the LGBTQ community. So you don't really need to educate anything or, include this topic, which is just shocking because it is such an important part of the whole curriculum, that while growing up, when you learn the concepts of inclusivity, you are more accepting as compared to older people, because they have to unlearn so many things and then they begin learning about certain concepts. So I think this is one of the challenges that we face while advocating, while educating young people.
Yeah, I mean, similar things we also face when we do workshops, take sessions with other organizations and institutions. So what happens is when we finish the session, people say that we are confused. We are like so usually in our society, we have a clear script that society has defined, right? That this will happen like this person has this roles and responsibilities. And when those structures are challenged, when those structures are, kind of questioned, then it leaves you confused and it leaves you perplexed, right? So that thing happens every time when we finish the session, that people say that we are more confused now. And then we say that it's okay to get confused, because whenever anything is challenged and questioned and you are learning something new, it's a very normal thing to, get confused. So that is something very basic thing that we face every day in our, yeah. Yeah, and second thing is like, because our organization works for queer and trans people, and the employees, the team members who are working in our organization are also queer trans people. So there are at times when we have to take care of our personal safety as well, and our emotional and mental health as well. So how to kind of have a balance between that I can take care of myself as well, and at the same time I can take care of the other person also whom I'm helping. So that sometimes becomes a challenge, like where to draw the boundary.
Thanks so much, Priyal and Saurav. And yes, I think it's kind of like a thing when we host even workshops, on LGBT inclusion. People really say that, oh, now I'm more confused, or the confusion is also with curiosity. Like, I think I want to learn more about it, and I think that's when social enterprises like yours really step up, to answer these questions and help them figure out these things. And now let's go over to a question from Saeed Omer. Hi, Saeed. Over to you. Good afternoon.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My question is a little bit sensitive. So I work in the domain of content. I run a book publishing company called Dastan, and we particularly launched a competition on inviting LGBTQ and queer stories in collaboration with our partners. So one thing that I want to seek advice from you guys is how do you deal the religion aspect when you talk about this subject? Because from the Islam's point of view, they're okay when we talk about or advocate about trans rights, but whenever we talk about queer, there is a very strong rebuttal. Like when I launched that competition, half of my team and half of my writers resigned in protest. So that was like quite a thing for me. So do you guys came across any such thing, and what would you advise that how do we like raise the voice, advocate for it, but like in a much better way? So would love to seek your advice here, because I couldn't figure this out so till now.
So I don't know if I can provide a solution to that, but then I can give you example of about our organization. So our director, our co-founder, is one of the petitioners in the same-sex marriage marriage equality cases that has been filed in India. So as part of lesbian, bisexual women and trans persons network, we have filed a petition in the Supreme Court. So and so if we are fighting it alone, let's say my co-founder or our organizations are supporting it as a single entity, so the backlash is more there. We are more prone to face harm and backlashes from the people. But here we are supported by the other activists as well, who have been working in the sector for very long, and a lot of other LGBTI networks who are working in India. So, with that support, we got support from very great lawyers as well, who are also queer trans people. So, I think when the support is huge, the voices amplifies, and then I think if certain backlashes are coming from there, you also have the energy and you also have the capacity to kind of fight back, or kind of you also have the potential to fight back. So yeah, something that making a community or making a network where you can be supported, or you can be yeah, you can be supported so that you can create the advocacy in a much more strengthening way, I feel. Maybe Priyal can add. Yeah.
So I really like your idea when you say that not to fight alone, but to fight together. That is one really good point. One more thing that I would like to add, again, I can't provide any solution because we face that challenge almost like every day. But something that has helped me is having mentors in this domain who have experience of dealing with, who are still fighting. So I at least, try to reach out to them. LinkedIn works great for me. I reach out to them. I tell them what the problem is, and more often than not, I've found that people are willing to help you if you just ask for it. So the challenges that you're facing, if you could identify certain people who would be the best to help you out in those situations, reach out to them, connect with them, and seek help.
Thanks so much, Priyal and Saurav, for your answers. And yes, I think when it comes to questions or topics that are as sensitive, as faith, as religion, intersection with LGBT, it really is, I echo your sentiments. It really is important that we also reach out to experts in the field. And we may not have one directly right now, but there's also already an existing network that we have, and we can start asking questions there, and maybe they could refer us eventually to someone who will help us figure out the answer. And this is also like a collective action kind of thing. This is not something that we have to talk about on our own. So thanks so much. And also thanks so much, Saeed, for asking your questions. We really appreciate it. And now we have another question. This was anonymously sent to us. What are 3 things you're grateful for the most in your journey so far? So yeah, just 3 things. While they're thinking, I think, because 3 things is a lot to think about, maybe I could think about one thing for me personally. I think, I think 2. So number 1 is last year we were able to work together to push out a movers workshop on LGBTI inclusion. And I think that's a very good milestone for LGBT inclusion. And if ever you're curious, you can head over to the movers program and you can check the website there. We have sources and we have a workshop on LGBTI inclusion, which you can run with your friends in organizations and everywhere else. Priyal and Saurav, I don't want to take so much of the time. Maybe over to you. Just 3 things you're most thankful for in this journey.
I have actually a lot of things that I'm grateful for, but if I have to pick 3, one I would say would be, which is at the top, is having the community where who support me and people whom I can fall back on, because starting something new as a young person is always challenging because you don't know everything. You are figuring it out, and as a solo founder, you sometimes burn out. So just having a community where you can rely, share your stress and whatever you're going through, that has been one major pillar of strength for me to always go on. So that is something that I'm grateful for. The second one is people whom I didn't even know. I reached out to them randomly, like cold texting on LinkedIn, that hey, this is my organization and I'm struggling with building finances, so could you just help me? People from different countries have just jumped in because they like the idea, something that I would have never imagined when I started off. So I'm really grateful that people are just willing to help you. All you need to do is ask. This is something that I've learned, and I really appreciate when people just do it, even when they're getting nothing out of it. So that is second. And the third one I would say would be having all of these opportunities. When I started, I thought that I would be, there would be a lot of backlashes, but then I've received support from UNDP and from other organizations who are just there to support us, support young people and people who are trying to bring a change in this world. So just receiving those support along the way has really helped us boost our morale, and the energy that we put in, day out to make something work. And just having someone who could just say that, oh, you're doing a wonderful job and we are just here for whatever you need. So yeah, three things that I've been really grateful for.
Yeah, so one of the things is quite similar to what Priyal said, like having a community. So, being a queer trans person, I am not very much associated with my, biological family because of the harassment and violence that I had faced in my journey. But then, I also have my chosen family who kind of support me in my journey, who kind of help me to, grow. And whenever I need to rely upon them, or, whenever I need support from them, I can, be on them. So I also am fortunate enough that I can choose my own family apart from my natal family. So that is something which I'm very thankful of, that, I have a chosen family whom, I can be thankful, whom I can rely upon. So that is one thing. Second thing is, like, most part of my professional journey has been in rural India, where, and it has come from a lot of ground realities and practical knowledge that I have had on the field. And that is why the approach of my work is also very much grounded in ground reality, so that, I can find real life solutions and what works and what not works in the ground. So that is something which I'm very thankful of, because I don't have a specialized formal education in a specific field, but having worked in the ground with the community, that is something which I'm very thankful of. And third thing is, I would say, I think it's mere luck that what I got in my journey, because I come from a very small city. I don't have a very strong caste or class background. Maybe there are other people who have similar marginalization that, like me, they might not have the same journey which I have had. So I would say it's just finding right people, right opportunities, and the energy to kind of fight my personal battle as well, and carrying on the professional journey as well. So yeah, that is something which I would say I'm thankful of.
Thanks so much. And I think combining both of the things both of you are thankful of, it's really more of like, that again, the enabling space, the supportive community, choosing the right people to walk with you in the path that you choose to take, which is of course very important. And I think, just to add to what Saurav mentioned, like, if you feel like you still haven't found that space, that if you feel like you still haven't found that set of friends that you would be very comfortable with in sharing your stories, we're happy to receive those stories, and we're happy to jump on a conversation with you and support you in however we can when it comes to, especially not all young social entrepreneurs in this space right now, but especially those who are also working on LGBTI inclusion. We can answer, thanks so much. We can answer this last question. This is actually from James of the UNDP in China. Is there anything you would like to say to the Chinese LGBTI plus community in the spirit of solidarity and shared struggles? We desperately need some hope and inspiration in these very hard times. So yes, I'll pass it over to you both. Thank you.
So I personally, I don't have a very strong, information about the Chinese politics, what is happening around LGBTQI inclusion. But globally, what is happening, I can, like, a lot of organizations from different countries, South Asian countries, they reach out to us. So we develop a lot of resources, like we have a runaway guide, like, for example, if some queer people, they run away from their families, how, if they can take help from that runaway guide. We also, as I mentioned, we have guides for, case workers, and we have for media professionals. So I think maybe the organizations who are working for queer trans people in China, if our resources are helpful, we'll be happy to support those resources. You can get it from our website as well. And we'll be happy to support if, there are some kind of collaboration to do. So you can reach out to Nazariya because our work is solely on queer trans issues and rights. I'll be happy to, connect my colleagues also with the organization who are working in different streams and areas. So yeah, that is something which I can extend as a support to the organizations working in China.
And I would also like to add that if you need any support, we would be happy to help as well, because we are also building an anonymous platform that provides solutions and answers to your questions. So if you need anything, we can always connect.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Priyal and Saurav. And perhaps after this call, we could also connect you to James to see how else we can work together for the LGBTI plus communities in China. So thanks so much for your answers. And once again, everybody, thanks so much for the curiosity that you have and the questions that you sent to our panelists today. Now, as we close, I'd like to ask this last one question to both Priyal and Saurav. Mainly because we're talking about IDAHOBIT, we're celebrating it this week and the next, and you both are social entrepreneurs working for and with LGBTI communities. As a young entrepreneur working for and with LGBTI communities, what does 2030 look like for you in terms of LGBTI inclusion? We can close with that question. Over to anybody who'd like to start.
I really see a very bright future, because I believe that the coming generation does not just accept whatever we offer. They are curious and they question, and they want to have like the right answers. So I really believe that 2030, by 2030, we would be more inclusive. Even though we don't have a blueprint, we are paving the way. But I really believe that it's gonna be way more better than how it is right now.
Yeah, specifically speaking about entrepreneurial spaces, I would love to see more queer trans people in the leadership positions, being CEOs of the organizations, being founder of the organization. So that is something which I want to see. I want to see them in, decision-making process and, at the leading positions in the organizations. I want to see the organizations, revising their policies and, revising their work culture so that it becomes more inclusive and it becomes more, affirmative spaces for queer trans people. And third thing is definitely, as I mentioned, our organization is one of the petitioners in the, marriage equality movement in India. So definitely hoping a very positive response from the Indian government and judiciary that, we get a positive response, which will also kind of, help in creating a very huge impact in the queer trans community, because marriage is an institution which kind of gives a lot of privileges to people, and lots of rights and lots of privileges revolves around the marriages. So yeah, that is something which I think I look forward to.
Thanks so much, Saurav and Priyal. And again, these answers, your experiences, how much you're willing to send an extra hand to especially members of LGBTI community in need, really just shows us that there's hope for 2030. There's hope as we reach that 2030 goal, and it's initiatives like yours and the rest of the social entrepreneurs in this space, our colleagues from the UN. It really gives us hope that by 2030 we will have a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable world for everyone. Thank you so much, Priyal and Saurav. Let's give them a virtual round of applause.